Well, hello there, everyone. Welcome back. So it seems like everyone liked the last stream, so we're gonna go ahead and continue in this style. Hello, Mike Draw Paint. I don't know who disliked it. Some people will just click onto anything just to dislike it. So how's everyone doing today? So this is now dry. Remember, I started with just the umber. So the last one was just the umber layer. And I will say that this is a live stream that is hopefully a high definition live stream. So we may lose connection here or there, just a little disclaimer. But I have a software that should be able to boot the stream back up after however many minutes if we do lose connection. So just letting you know that is a distinct possibility. Oh yeah, I guess I'm late by a minute, but we're here, right? So what we're gonna do is start to introduce what I'm calling the color underpainting. Hey Dondo, how are you doing? How's everyone doing today? So yeah, feel free to ask me anything. Let's keep the dialogue going as we continue with this virtual painting session. Let me start off by reading out the colors because, among other things, this is also going to be a pre-recorded YouTube video after the stream is done. So we have, of course, the Flake White. This is Williamsburg. The Gamboge Lake Extra, Old Holland. Yellow Ochre Deep, this is Old Holland. Cadmium Red Vermilion, this is Williamsburg. Alizarin Crimson Lake Extra, Old Holland. French Umber, French Raw Umber, Rublev. Ivory Black Williamsburg, Ultramarine Blue Old Holland. How is everyone doing today? So what I'm going to do is start to mix up a testing zone, a test site for the flesh tones. And with this layer, with the first layer of color, what I call color underpainting, as I have my students do the same type of thing, except of course my students on Patreon have a step-by-step. What we're going to do is start to introduce color and values. The important thing is going to be the values all throughout here. So we're probably going to leave all of this in the umber layer and work here. So hopefully the photo reference is visible. How you doing, Andy from the UK? Welcome to the virtual painting session today. So let's go ahead and start to mix something up for this. So now I have my Flake White. Using a lot of Flake White. So I had the paints from last time. They're pretty much still on the palette, so I'm kind of digging through those paints. So Flake White, Yellow Ochre, and I'm going to be doing what I call the color underpainting, also known as dead coloring, but I don't really like the term dead coloring. So I have Yellow Ochre. Hey Mike. We have Yellow Ochre. We have Cadmium Red Vermilion. The paint is pretty thick on its own, but this is what I want. And I'm not going to be using any medium at all, so no medium whatsoever for the color underpainting. I'm treating this just as if it were a grisaille. Now my students on Patreon, I almost always go through a full monochromatic grisaille because it's easier, but we're just hanging out here in the virtual painting session, so I will be painting how I usually paint, which is a little bit more accelerated. So that's almost the same exact value, almost the same exact value as the tone, which is good. That means that the tone, the French umber, the Rublev color, is a pretty good basis for how we're going to start to build the flesh tones. And I usually pick some area that's the easiest, usually around here, the cheekbone or the forehead. So if you want to know a really good palette for the skin tones, let's see if somebody can guess it. A really good palette, I'll give you a hint. It has 4 colors in it. It starts with a Z. Who can guess what color palette I'm talking about? Mike asks, will this work with similar colors, the red umbers? Yeah, this should work with if you use more of a warm umber. I'm waiting to see if somebody will answer my little testing question. Yeah, there you go, Mike. That's right. I'm giving you a thumbs up. Yep, the Zorn palette. That's right. So I guess a lot of us know about this already, but lead white, a yellow ochre, some type of red, ideally cadmium red vermilion or vermilion, ivory black. Yep, those are all the colors that you need to get started with skin tones. And my palette is based off of the Zorn palette. Oh wait, Dondo, you said it too. Yay, Dondo, you said it too. I think you were auto-corrected, Mr. Gonzalez. You wrote zinc. But yes, awesome, everyone. Awesome, awesome. Yes, the Zorn palette. So let me go ahead and kind of illustrate what I mean. So using the ivory black. That being said, if you haven't used Old Holland or Williamsburg, the nice thing about them is they dry much faster than, I mean, in my opinion, of course, than say Winsor Newton and Gamblin. I like the way that they touch dry overnight, depending on how you paint. So right now it might be kind of hard to see. Hi, Marco. Oh, from Peru. Awesome. My family is from Peru. My family's from Lima, Peru. So awesome. Thanks for watching from Peru. And right now, I apologize. I know it may be kind of hard to see, but hopefully if you're watching this on the HD 1080p, I have it set at 30 frames per second. For oil painting, I don't think I need the full 60 frames per second, so I'm giving more priority to the picture quality and the audio quality than the rate of speed. So I'm starting off here with a simple little halftone for the side of the forehead. My family, they are, well, my grandfather, though I never met him, my grandfather was said to be a portrait artist in Peru. His name was Herminio Parra, I think. Allergies. Uh-oh. No allergies. Oh, awesome. I'll check the Patreon message, Ken, that you just sent me. Of course, right now I don't want to open the Wi-Fi for anything other than the stream. So, since I'm talking about the color palette, what type of paint? Old Holland, Old Holland. You can use the water cleanables, yeah. So since we're talking about flesh tones today, in our little virtual painting session, usually flesh tones are going to be some type of, now just generically, they're going to be some type of pinkish, orangish, grayed tone. So that's what makes the Zorn palette. The 4-color palette, you see that I'm kind of prioritizing 1, 2, 3, 4 colors here. So I actually will use the raw umber a little bit more often to bring down a skin tone. And this is just the most obvious place for me to start with the skin tone. I'm not trying to match perfectly what Van Dyck has, but rather I'm focusing more with the values, and I'm kind of tricking myself into thinking that, I'm working with almost no color and just focusing on values. Painting with little dabs at a time so that I'm not painting too heavy and without any medium at all. So let's check out the next question. Mike Draw Paint, you've been painting with acrylic for a while. You wanted to start doing oil paints. Brown, red, white. Yeah, you can do that. Burnt umber, cadmium orange, and titanium white is kind of a favorite for a lot of people. Pines gray, black, yellow ochre. Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, with skin tones, with painting skin tones, the most important thing, in my opinion, is going to be the type of red that you use. I prefer to use the cadmium red vermilion. That is a Williamsburg color. Though I am curious about trying the genuine vermilion. Michael Harding Oil Paints has the genuine vermilion, but of course it has mercury in it. So not worried about the mercury. It's just it's a very expensive paint tube. That's the only reason I don't have it on here. But I really like the cadmium red vermilion. I cannot emphasize enough how much I enjoy this color. After using cadmiums or like, you know, cadmium red deep, cadmium red light. For some reason, the cadmium red vermilion shade from Williamsburg is just like one of my favorite reds of all time for skin tones. Let's see, we got another question here. What's up, Dondo? Yeah, the primary colors also. With blue, I typically, well, since we're talking about primaries, I typically will go to the ultramarine blue. And I had a lot of questions from my students about types of substitute colors. A lot of my students use Cobra. If you haven't heard of Cobra, it's my favorite of the water mixable oil paints, but I don't quite think that they have a substitute for this color right here, Gamboge Lake Extra. How can I identify the tone on the shadow areas? Let's see. Vitor? And the shadow areas, depending on how you work, a more impressionistic way of working would probably be painting both the color of the light in relation to the color of the shadow. That's how you know, a colorist painter, quote unquote, painters that prioritize color in the beginning work. I'm not doing that. I'm doing what I call a color underpainting. So yeah, Mike, yeah, it's easier to paint in smaller areas if you're working in this way. Now, if you've seen some of my older YouTube videos, I would paint a color in the shadow and a color in the light and compare them as I'm painting. But what I've found is that it's actually easier to work in the light. So if you want to build up the texture of your painting, the integrity of your paint film, it's better to work up from this more or less simplified umber layer. And then after this dries, maybe one or two more layers, then you can start to introduce thin colors in the shadow. And the shadows are classically painted very thin. Now you can look at counter examples like Mr. Sargent, who would paint the shadows pretty much the same thickness as the lights, and he still got a pretty good effect out of it. So that was a really good question. I'm very happy for your question. So let's see, let's keep the questions going. Oh, you're following. Okay, I'm translating for you. You're following the dialogue. Awesome. Another thing I should talk about. No, I don't think this is how Sargent painted, Pat. There's a lot of readings online. In particular, if I could remember it, maybe someone can post it. There is an article talking specifically about Sargent's methods, and I don't think Sargent would work like this. This is more based off of, I think, you know, like the Baroque 17th century style. Obviously, it's not the same because, you know, if you look at the Dutch method for painting, then you'll probably have a transfer drawing, which I use for my students. But of course, in my own practice, I kind of just jump in like we did last time. Yeah, Sargent is awesome. But you know, Sargent is kind of a trickster. He tricks us once in a while because his paintings more or less are classical in nature, but he kind of stylized them in a good way. He made them look, you know, like they were painted all in one sitting, brushstroke per brushstroke. Let's see. Collaborate with other channels. I mean, haven't, not that I know of, I haven't had anyone send me something about collaborating. Not that I would even know, you know, what to do. I'm more or less a hermit, just always painting. But I in particular really enjoy this, like painting and talking, and painting and keeping a dialogue is a lot of fun. Let me see. I'm kind of struggling with the translation. So my family's from Peru, but I was born and raised here in Maryland, USA. So I can understand Spanish if it's spoken to me, but writing, it's kind of hard for me to understand. Shameful, I know. I'm shameful. So let's talk about the flesh tones for a second. So if anyone hasn't used Flake white, a lead-based white, right now it's really one of the best ingredients to what I'm doing. Though it's kind of difficult to see, I understand that. I'm looking at the screen. This is difficult to see because the tone of the surface is very similar to the color that I'm painting with the skin tones. But with lead-based white, so flake white, creminence white, lead white number 1, lead white number 2, whichever of the lead-based whites, it allows you to use more of it without raising the value too much, therefore allowing you to have a much more rich and thick and healthy, so to speak, skin color. Whereas if I was using titanium white, not to hate on titanium white, if I were using titanium white right now, already this much titanium white that I have used in the skin tones, this would be blasted. It would be way, way too light. So let's see if we have any questions. Did Caravaggio paint in one sitting for the... Did he do his... No, I don't think he did it in one sitting. Of course, we can't really know if Caravaggio did quickly, but I doubt it. I doubt it. Flake white less vibrant. I don't think so. Flake white, what differentiates it, in my opinion, of course I could be wrong, in my opinion, what differentiates the flake white is the paint drag. You know, when you drag the paintbrush down, there's much more, it feels like there's much more weight. And, the flake white, right? Just to emphasize, here's my tube of flake white. The thing is heavy. It's a very heavy tube. So that's one thing that you'll notice with these, these more, I guess, rich colors. Oh, thank you, Mad Mac. Yeah, I'm hoping that you're enjoying these, what I'm going to be calling virtual painting sessions. So now you see how I'm working my way around the eye. Diluting titanium white with medium help. Okay, Anna, in this stage, if you're working in the classical way, so if you're building layer after layer after layer after layer of painting, that is a great question. Thank you so much. If you're painting layer after layer after layer, you really don't want to introduce any kind of medium or any kind of oil in the earlier layers, just because fat over lean. Fat over lean is something that's referred to a lot in painting. Just to make it more simplified, in the beginning you want less medium. In the ending stages, you want more medium, and that is how come we can glaze. That's what enables us to glaze later on. Glazing, of course, is when you use semi-transparent application of oil painting over top of dry paint. Not the same as glazing a turkey for Thanksgiving. It's a little bit different, but the concept is a little bit similar. Yeah, of course, Mike. I'll definitely keep doing these. Let's see, Cobalt TMA. Dip the brush in. No. I don't have any medium. I just have distilled turpentine in my cup to the left. My cup to the right has my medium that I always, not medium, but my solvent that I start with, which is spike lavender. And this has distilled turpentine. Distilled turpentine is what I'm going to use to clean off my brush whenever I need. But right now I'm not cleaning the brush. If I need to change value, I will most likely change brush. Or if I have to change the color drastically. Yeah, no problem. Flake white, it can be dangerous. If I take the flake white, I mean, all jokes aside, if for some reason I ingest this flake white, it says contains lead, warning, harmful if swallowed. So, if I were to ingest the paint by accident, that could be harmful. But I will tell you that the lead-based colors that we have now, as I've heard, they're really not as toxic as one would think that they are. Essentially, I keep my hands away from the flake white, and I make sure when I'm painting, I'm not eating. Well, sometimes I will, but you know, we'll keep that on the hush hush. But basically, if we keep this out of our mouths, we should be good. Hmm. All right, so now let's go ahead and start to add a lot of white. And like I say, this is the color underpainting, so you can actually put straight white in some of the highlights. Contrary to what you would do maybe if this was a one-sitting painting, which I don't really do much of anymore. But you can put in pretty much straight white in some of the highlights. And that is in anticipation for the fact that you're going to build. So it's always easier in your first, you know, when you first introduce values, it's always easier to work lighter. And then when this dries and you work over top of it, then you can start to introduce darker and darker tones. Because with oil paint, it's usually easier to layer darker. Yeah, you can wear latex gloves when you're working with flake white. Yeah, definitely. Especially if you are preparing your paints, which hopefully I will be doing in the future. You know, if you're you know, mixing your own paints with the pigment, then of course I would definitely use gloves. But it all depends on how you paint. You know, if you're a painter that you get paint on your hands very frequently and all over the place, which I kind of do, but we're gonna keep that on the hush. Then I would probably recommend gloves. But it's not as dangerous and scary as one may think. Let's see. Okay, Danielle, I don't really know IRUK. Does that mean am I okay? Yeah, I'm okay. Uh, with the you know, the flake white is not, it's not as toxic to us as we think. It gets a bad rep, unfortunately, flake white. So see, if anyone noticed how I just switched brushes. So I'm going to start to put in that darker halftone, that kind of warmish tone that you're seeing in the photo reference by the nose. I know that the photo reference may be small. Yeah, don't worry about, let's not laugh at anyone for using gloves with flake white. You know, it's better to be safe than sorry, and it's better to understand the materials, the toxicity, to respect the paints, of course. All right, so all flake white stuff aside, now that I'm starting to put halftones, thank you, Barbara. Now that I'm starting to introduce halftones, it's important to note that I just used this color right here. And let's talk about colors that get a bad rap. For some reason, alizarin crimson gets a really bad rap. Mainly because alizarin crimson historically is a fugitive color. So if you buy a cheap alizarin crimson, then maybe in about 50 years it will start to lose its pigmentation. Maybe. If you're going with this guy right here, or this gal, whichever, alizarin crimson lake extra old Holland. If you haven't used this alizarin, let me do the drop test. It's heavy, right? You know, it's jam packed with pigment, and the red is really nice. It's a really nice deep red. So you know, I highly recommend in these halftones to sneak in a little bit of the alizarin. Alizarin, remember, is your lake red, meaning it's a very transparent red. Thanks to everyone that's leaving a like. All right, so let's go ahead and continue to build the nose. And if you were here with the last stream, which was on Saturday, which if you're listening right now and wondering when the next stream will be, I'm considering Wednesday. It's not set in stone. yet. It depends on how this goes. But I'm thinking of, now this may change, to do these virtual painting sessions um, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays around 5 p.m. That's what I'm thinking. That could change. It all depends on how everything goes with the analytics. In the mornings, I will be streaming my lessons to my online students. So again, if you're curious about the online classes, please check out patreon.com/upariartist. I also have a link in the description. And the online classes, again, are $10 a month. And you get access to all of the lessons, the virtual classrooms that we have. And my online students can send me images. They have the ability to send me images every week of their projects and extracurricular activities. For them, extracurriculars is painting along with any of my pre-recorded videos. Now I'm really going to build that highlight. Outside the US, all those paints are paint tube ASMR, right? Yeah, dropping the paint tubes. They are? Okay. One of my students is from Canada. I have a student from France as well, so I did hear that the paint tubes can get expensive. I tell you what, Alla Prima is as expensive as it can get, which I'm not really working in Alla Prima, but Alla Prima is kind of like, I don't mean this in a derogatory term, but Alla Prima is kind of in fad right now. It's in vogue. So, like the Richard Schmid school, where like putting in all of this, color mixed with like OMS, mineral spirits, and then putting on flesh tone. I've done this before on YouTube. In fact, I think if any of you have seen Breaking the Rules, okay, we have a message held for review. What's going on? What's going on? Let me see. Add, what is this? Let's put it on comment squad. Who's in my comment squad? All right, so comment squad. You, if you decide to be on the comment squad, you're designated to kick out the people or anyone that says any derogatory stuff. So let's see. Last question that I got. Mike asked me, what stores do you go for your supplies? If I'm gonna purchase in person, I usually go to Plaza Arts Store, the one in Vienna, Virginia, Northern Virginia. Usually, if I'm gonna buy online, I usually purchase either from Amazon or Jerry's Artorama. Those are where I usually purchase. Ismael from. It is hard to do with photo references if you're painting, if you're using an image like after 1920, when copyright started. So, this is the 17th century, so a little bit ahead of, a little bit before 1920. So copyrights shouldn't be an issue, especially if you're using Google Arts and Culture. They're really good with that. They're not gonna strike you down for using their images. Yeah, genuine vermilion can be, at least here in the US, genuine vermilion, the smaller tube, I think, is about 85. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, Anna. Yeah, they can be pretty expensive, but, this method that I teach, this method that I use, actually doesn't use as much paint. There's people that say you have to use thick paint, lots of paint, in order to get the best results, and that's not always the case. I find if you're building your paintings like this, one little dab at a time, one section at a time, but you're very observant of your paint mixtures, you can, by the end of the painting, you can have a very, very rich and vibrant looking painting without, using up all of the tubes. Let's see. Oh yeah, the link's in the description. So if anyone is experiencing any lag, my program is now telling me that it's redirecting the input source. So if we lose any kind of footage for a couple minutes, don't worry, I have a program that should bring the connection back. Yeah, Winsor Newton is a pretty good way to go. But now, since the dialogue is about skin tone, about painting flesh tones, the reality is most of it is going to be down to those 4 colors that I was talking about. So the white that you choose, yellow ochre, your red, ivory black. So the thing is, out of all of those colors, the most expensive ones are going to be the flake white and the cadmium red. So essentially that's 2 colors that are going to be more expensive. Yellow ochre is pretty cheap and it's a really reliable color to use for skin tones. Ivory black is also really cheap. So, if you look at it that way, it's only really 2 tubes that you have to get. You don't have to have, 25 colors to paint skin tones. No buffering? Okay, that's good. It's lagging on my end, but as long as it's working for you. Thanks, Dondo. There are exercises you can do, Vitor, but, okay. To be practical, let me get a palette knife. Let me show you. So white, red gives you a pink. This is a basis for a lot of skin tones. Now, using that on its own is fine if you're painting it on a really bright area on the earlobe or something like that. But what you want is an earthy yellow, which is yellow ochre deep or just yellow ochre. Perfect color to use. This gives you a kind of grayed out orange. Back to the flake white. This already is a usable skin tone. And that really depends on the paint brands, of course. If you're using a cheaper paint brand, Siri. I'm not talking to Siri. Sorry, my Siri is acting up. How dare you misbehave, Siri. So now let me get a clean brush and show you. I can use this mixture here. I can use this. If you're seeing the photo reference, look at the cheek right here, the side of the cheekbone. I can already use this color for a skin tone. And you see, the most complicated thing is oftentimes not the color when it comes to skin tone, but the most complicated thing can actually be the value. So trying to figure out what value you're trying to obtain can sometimes be way more difficult than the color. Okay, cool. Russian Masterclass Paints. Haven't heard of it, but I can check it out. So hopefully that answered your question. I thank you so much for the question. I really enjoy the questions because it does help with the dialogue of these virtual painting sessions. Now notice how I still haven't jumped into the eye just yet. The eye I'm kind of holding back for a little while. Oh wow, Mike, so you made your own skin tone chart using 75 flesh tones and still adding. There you go. No, at this point, Anna, I don't really consider color variation, though I've kind of already done it. So that being said, I'm trying to keep it as unified as possible, meaning I'm not trying to have too many jumps in hue or anything like that. But admittingly, I did make the area around the nose warmer, meaning the nostrils warmer, and I'll probably make this warmer over here. But my main objective right now is the values. And again, if anyone is curious with the online classes, I do go way slower and more in depth, way more slowly, more in depth with the exact procedure, because this is a a faster paced approach that follows the same principles. Okay, so underpainting, wait till, yeah, definitely you want to wait till it dries, but when you're using this type of, if you're using an umber layer, you kind of get away with certain things, because with the umber itself, since it's such a fast drying pigment, you really shouldn't have too much concern. Whereas if you were to start an underpainting really thick, notice I'm not painting that thick, though of course, I'm painting with more I guess rich colors. It feels thick, but it's not too much paint. So you're still trying to handle 5 ATM. I'm not sure what you mean, Mike. Okay, Pat. So you have trouble matching value and color. Okay, so that's a really good question. Thank you for your question. To everyone that is just beginning. So if you're just beginning with oil paint, that usually means you have less than 5 years or 10 years painting. I would suggest monochrome to start. Monochrome, and that's how I build up my students with their projects in the online class. So going in with the color underpainting with this style is a little complex. So if you can do it, if you can master it without color, so if you can master your values just using lead white and raw umber, then by the time you get to do color, you have a really big advantage. Yeah, you can also build a green underpainting. A lot of folks will start off with a gray. I'd say most painters today will probably start with a gray tone to kind of push the cool notes of the skin tones. I used to do that a lot, but lately I prefer to start with this color, the raw umber, or in this case, this is French umber from Rublev, simply because there are many instances that I can use this tone as a skin tone. Oh, thanks. I'm really glad that you enjoy this way, Mike. It's so laid back, I'll tell you. It is so laid back to paint this way. If you've seen some of my previous YouTube videos, like if you go back, like way back to maybe like my 2018 or even 2017 YouTube videos, I was panicking, because I would jump in with color and then, try to figure things out, color and value and all that stuff together. And let me tell you, that is stressful for me. And for me, it's easier this way because look, see how I'm modulating the skin tone? Just thinking of value. Oh, what's up? Watching from Lebanon. 12:38. Wow. I'm glad this is a perfect time for you to concentrate. I'm thinking for my schedule that streaming at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time or Eastern Pacific Time. I live in Maryland, so if you just look up, if you're not in the U.S., just look up Maryland, USA, the D.C. area. Just what time is 5 p.m. in the D.C. area, and you'll like me find me here painting, given my technology works. What is the best way to? Okay, Mike asks, what is the best way to mix burnt umber, as it's a A color that is difficult to get over there. Oh, well, for one thing, the umbers. What I heard is that burnt umber is created through heating up a raw umber, hence the name burnt umber. But to mix a burnt umber color, oh, okay, yeah, no problem. To mix a burnt, you can get a very similar burnt umber color using that Zorn palette. So yeah, I can demonstrate that. And I really appreciate these questions because once this stream ends, this will be a pre-recorded video, and as a pre-recorded video, all these questions and I think will help. So if you want to create an umber type color, so just get all of the Zorn palette colors together and you'll get something similar to either burnt sienna or burnt umber. And again, this was a brand new or just a clean brush. So if you mix all of the Zorn palette colors with maybe an emphasis on the red, you should get a burnt umber looking color. Just know that it won't dry as quickly as the French umber will dry. Book I would recommend, if anyone has heard, let me actually use this color now. If anyone has heard of John de Martin. Now, John de Martin was one of my teachers. Let me type his name. Okay, I'm typing his name for you. Pat, so the way that the sending images for critique, so that's actually the monthly critique that I do for my online students. So they have the option to send me images weekly of their projects, but for their own original work, they send me images of original works once a month. So if you wouldn't mind joining my Patreon, again, it's $10 a month. You can send me the images weekly of your painting projects, and of originals, documented pictures of originals would be once a month. Just to be fair to my online students. Yeah, there you go, Mike. All 4 colors of the Zorn with a little emphasis on the red. So if anyone noticed the comment that I wrote John de Martin, so I had a previous question about books that I recommend. John de Martin is a published author, and he was also one of my teachers when I was at Studio Incaminati in Philadelphia. And I owe a lot of my understanding of drawing, which is the most important thing, in my opinion, to painting, to him, to John de Martin. So if you haven't heard of John de Martin, definitely check him out. He's a draftsperson, a painter based in New York. Last I checked, he was in New York. But yeah, I would definitely check out his books. Pat, so let me type it for you. So Pat, if you look up what I'm sending now, patreon.com/upariartist. I also have a link in the description box, but sometimes it's just easier to type it. It's your preference, but that way, I'm connected with my online students. We have a messenger on Patreon, so I'm like a hawk. Every time they send a message on there, I'm constantly checking the Patreon. And I'm really enjoying the online student community that we have there on Patreon. I'm sorry, I can't. If someone can translate for you, buddy. Okay, so from what I'm thinking, you're saying that you spent a lot of time in school. Okay, from what I'm understanding, yeah, this kind of teaching is a little difficult to find in, a typical, say, college setting or anything like that. if you're interested in looking at schools that teach this similar type of method, there's Florence Academy. Florence Academy is a really good one. There's Angel Academy. Of course, those are ateliers. They're a little pricey. Last I checked, I can't remember what the tuition was, but it's a little pricey. What I usually do is I will look up scholarly articles from art conservationists, and that is what I do. That's how I find, information on what's the best red to use, which in my opinion, I think is a Vermilion type. The best white to use, again, the Flake white, also called stack lead white. And all this information, it comes from looking at scholarly articles, and I'll look up some of the scholarly articles. Oh, I'm glad, Dondo, that the Patreon is helping you out. Again, everyone, Dondo is on my Patreon, and he's definitely doing wonderful work. I'm really proud. Now I'm going to start to push that darker accent. I'm going to get another brush. One thing I don't like about using a lot of brushes is that I have to clean the brushes afterwards, but I'm going to add a little bit. See how I'm using my Lake Red, the Alizarin Crimson Lake Extra. I try to sneak that color in the darker tones. And let's see, this might be too warm, but let's try it out. There we go. So that now you see how just adding a little bit of a darker tone really does help to emphasize the I don't know what the word is, the dimensionality of the concavity of the eye socket. When it comes to likeness, very often if I don't pay a lot of attention to the shape of the eye socket, I typically won't get likeness as quickly. All right, let's see. You feel like the ARC, the ARC ateliers are very tight-knit community. Yes, it does seem like everyone knows each other, but we'll keep this on the hush-hush because, if I mention anything about other artists, I may get into some trouble. But the Art Renewal Center is, I think it's a really good resource to find information on classical painting. But I do think what you've mentioned is accurate. I'll see. What book did Ruben read? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. So again, to those of you watching this in the future, after the video is uploaded, I hope that the dialogue here is something that you're benefiting from, because I really enjoy this live painting. I mean, it's been 48 minutes and it does not even feel like it's been 4 minutes, for me at least. How's everyone doing in the audience? Is everyone enjoying the virtual painting sessions? Okay, I can't quite understand the last question. Anthony Van Dyck, the one that originally painted this, was also said to be a really good teacher. There's some readings on previous treaties. Not that I can remember anything specifically right now. But that's a good antique reading to look at. Kathy, what's up? Kathy's here from Patreon. I'm glad you are here. Yep, here we are on the second public virtual painting session ever. And this has been a lot of fun. Welcome, Kathy. So right now, what I'm trying to figure out are the values here on the face good enough, you know, to be able to glaze onto later on. All right, I just got an email. So if you just emailed me, I'm going to check my email after the stream. Oh, don't worry, Pat. There's plenty of time to learn. Tell you what, everyone. I won't mention names, of course, but before the world ended, I was teaching classes in person, and I had a student, have a student, 90 years old in my class. And I tell you, he learned so much, so fast. He was like a sponge. And very excited to come to class, and just a wonderful, wonderful student to have. I had him in 2 of my classes before the world ended. He was in 2 of my classes, and it was a really wonderful experience. And I believe he is still painting, still learning. Oh, awesome, Andy. I'm glad that you think that the questions are excellent. I really like the questions that I'm getting from the audience here. You all are awesome. Incurable direct painter. Okay, yeah. I mean, I was mostly a direct painter. This is technically direct painting because I started with direct paint. So if anyone's curious about the terminology between direct painting and indirect painting, there's a lot of confusion that goes on in the terminologies, but indirect typically means if you did a transfer drawing and then if you transferred the drawing and then you inked in the lines, that's typically called indirect, which is the more classical way to work. Direct painting is how we started last time, when you start with paint right away, with oil paint, that is. What's up, Gianni? Thank you for your wonderful compliment. I hope someone's painting with me. Come on, who's painting with me? Let's all keep these virtual painting sessions alive. This is a lot of fun. All right, Dondo, you're painting with us. Awesome. So I'll tell you what, one of the most intricate areas, or should I say one of the most difficult areas for me with the eyes, for some reason, is right here. The corner right by the tear duct. So right, this is the tear duct. For some reason, this little curve here, I don't know why it is, it's always given me the most trouble. And it's the area that I put the least emphasis on. So in full disclosure, if you're wondering what areas specifically with the eye that I struggle with, it is here. And that is because it's such a strange curve to me. It's flat, it goes down, over, flat, then back up again. It's kind of a weird thing. And I did sneak in a little bit of that warmer tone. Hey, Pam. Yep, cooking counts. Cooking counts. I like to cook once in a while. Well, I don't know if it counts, but one of the foods I like to prepare is I guess the correct term is maki, sushi, California rolls, shrimp tempura. That's what I like to prepare. All right, so Mike noticed that on a few of my paintings take more time. Yeah, yeah, I've definitely been taking a lot more time. Yesterday in the live chat with my patrons, we also have a monthly live chat, which is basically like a hangout session. Um, I had finally finished another Rembrandt study that I'd been working on for I think about 2 months. So it does take a while, but if you check on my Instagram, hopefully the difference will show between when I was creating paintings in a week versus now 2 months. And what I'm trying to do is, put in more time, hence, painting and talking, more time, and, the most, I guess, genuine paintings I can possibly make in terms of technique. Okay, of course, this is, not my own original image. It's from Van Dyck. But what I'm trying to do is solidify this technique, 17th century style technique, bring it into the modern world, make it as accessible to everyone as possible through virtual classrooms, and then ultimately teach these techniques to everyone that I can teach on Patreon, and moving forward from there, make it as accessible as possible. Let's see. Yeah, now everyone's hungry. Yeah, yeah, now I'm starting to get hungry. Yeah, no worries. 63 is perfect age to get back into painting. Again, as I mentioned earlier, I had a painting student when I was teaching in-person classes before the pandemic happened. And at 90 years old, he came in as a beginner and just was learning, like taking in information like a sponge. He learns so fast. Let's see. So Mike, painted a landscape once using ketchup, mustard, and okay. Yeah, I don't know if I would do that. Let's see. Painting, drawing. Okay. Yep, definitely drawing before painting is a good thing. How often are the streams happening? They can happen almost every day. I mean, if the results are that everyone likes this type of setup. Now, of course, I will be streaming for my online students the lessons. I'll be streaming for them in the mornings, and then in the evenings I would like to continue streaming like this. It all depends on technology, really. And I'm not the best at marketing. I don't know how, on a marketing standpoint, it would affect me if I did this almost every day. Let's see, I'm trying to... Oh, yeah, Mike. Yeah, painting a landscape with ketchup and mustard, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I would... I'm not sure how archival ketchup and mustard are, but maybe it's the new thing. I don't know. Now, hopefully you can see, though I didn't really talk about it. Yeah, Saturdays. Dondo, I do think. Okay, so Dondo, you're on Patreon, so you will be getting more lessons. Remember, it was one lesson a week. Now it's going to be 3 lessons a week. So I'll be introducing more projects. Dondo, in particular, we're going to be doing the pearl earring, redoing the pearl earring for our next our next project. So that should be project 3. But yeah, I'll be streaming these on Saturdays most likely. But again, I really enjoy these streams. I mean, we're already approaching an hour. I've covered almost everything I needed to cover in the light. The dialogue is great. I enjoy everyone's questions. And I think that it will add to the experience of watching this after it's filmed. And the nice thing I like is that YouTube uploads it on its own. So once I'm done streaming, YouTube uploads it by itself. I think I forgot to put tags on the last one, but you know, YouTube does it on its own, and that's an extra thing that I don't have to do, and it puts me here. You know, keeps me painting, so might as well. All right, so RoboCop 2015. As a beginner, I find it challenging to. I like your username, by the way. As a beginner, I find it challenging to mix colors, as I do, as you do. Usually, I try to have several values on my palette before starting. That's a great way to keep things organized if you have your values set up on your palette. That can help really well. Let's see. Yeah, pearl earrings on your list. Tell you what, I did the pearl earring not too long ago here on YouTube, and I'm considering taking it down. I started it with acrylic, and you know, there's nothing wrong with acrylic, but I was all over the place when I did that one. That was a voiceover style, and yeah, that was all over the place. So I will be doing pearl earring for Patreon. And yep, Kathy, you suggested it. We talked about it actually. So Kathy and I definitely we're gonna start the pearl earring. I have the panel for it already. So hey Doreen, looking forward to the pearl earring. Awesome. Oh, you like the other pearl earring? Oh, just wait till the one on Patreon. We're gonna do the pearl earring justice on Patreon. Okay, Mike, I won't delete the pearl earring. The one on YouTube. Thanks. I'm glad you liked that one. But in all full disclosure, see the way that I was making the videos before, I would start maybe on a Monday and I don't know, start painting something and hoping that people would want to watch it. By the time I'd be done with the painting, it would be like a Thursday, and then I'd have to start editing it for upload on Saturday, and I was terrified. I didn't know if anyone wanted to watch my videos, and I would voice it over because I'd be too afraid to paint and talk at the same time, and there was a lot of stress back then. But now that I have a technique that's more solidified and understood, it's not stressful at all. It's something that I feel like I can teach comfortably, confidently, and that's what makes me feel like I will be able to do the pearl earring more justice. Oh, thanks. Let's see. Have much to paint, or because you do enjoy. Well, I hope you enjoy these real-time uploads. I hope you're enjoying these virtual painting sessions. I could be on here. I can just hang out here for a while. Now I'm starting to put in. I'm sneaking in. This is a combination of the Cadmium Red Vermilion, the French Umber, and Yellow Ocher. So notice one color I didn't use yet. Oh, you buy the bulk brushes from the store you just mentioned? Buddy, you're not alone. You're not alone. You are not alone. Yeah, we keep that on the hush when it comes to the paints, or the paint brushes. So what I was saying, this is the raw umber, cadmium red vermilion, yellow ochre for this halftone here. It's almost exactly the color I see on my iPad, which I'm using for photo reference. Very thin. 2 hairs and some air. 10 points, whoever recognizes that quote. 2 hairs and some air. Yeah, right. Those brushes aren't that expensive, but they're really useful. I mean, I'm using it right now. And what I'm doing, everyone, is I'm deliberately putting in a halftone, which is called the dark light, which is the halftone just as light approaches shadow. Again, John DeMartin taught me that terminology, the dark light. So the halftone just as light approaches shadow, and also trying to keep this edge really, really soft. Not only do you want to keep your values pretty light in your first color underpainting or monochromatic underpainting, but you want to keep your edges really soft, really soft. All right, Andy, I have painted here, or painted her a few times. Teaches me something new. Okay, I think we're talking about the pearl earring. Yeah, the pearl earring is definitely a challenge, but in particular, glazing. I think the pearl earring is a big, it teaches us a lot about glazing. And I know that that painting was recently, it was recently, what's the correct word? What's the word when I take the varnish off and they fill in the little cracks? I guess the word is maintenance. Recently had maintenance in the past, like, 50 years. So technically, the pearl earring should be more true than, appear to us more true than it was, like, say, 100 years ago. Let's see. Oh, Mike, you have to go. Well, thanks for joining the stream. Most likely Wednesday around the same time I'll be here. Oh, you got the, oh yeah, Bob Ross, 2 hairs and some air. That's right, Mike. Thumbs up, thumbs up. Pablo. Oh, thank you so much for your kind words. Oh, thank you so much. Oh, alongside Cesar Santos. Wow, that really means a lot to me. Thank you. Restored. Yeah, silly me. Yes, it was recently restored. Yeah, I know. I tend to forget words or terminology when I'm painting and talking and streaming and editing and all that stuff. But yes, it recently restored the pearl earring, so yeah, it should be closer to how Vermeer painted it than it was previously. Conservation, yep. Art, yep, conservation. Yep, Bob Ross, the 2 hairs and some air. Yeah, that's from Bob Ross. Yeah, there's a lot to learn from Bob Ross. You know, he gets hated on a lot by haters. Unfortunately, a lot of classical painters have hated on Bob Ross. But what he did was he used alla prima. He did it right. He used alla prima painting. It's just he did it without the drawing because he did it. He kind of stylized, and he made it accessible to everyone. You know, he's a hero for doing that. But you know, haters are gonna be haters, which I'm not a hater of Bob Ross. I myself would watch Bob Ross, and kind of listen to how he would speak, and kind of take notes on what he would say, what he would do. Oh, thanks, Arcadian Art. I'm glad you're enjoying the content. All right, Mike, thanks for tuning in. Yeah, most likely Wednesday around the same time. I'll be here. You know, I almost forgot the light of the sclera. Oh, Jean Claro. Yeah, I'm sorry. I can't. I'm having trouble with the comment. Let's see. Hello there, Christina from Barcelona. Let's see. Any tips to push color temperatures to create more interesting portraits? When it comes to changing, and I'm sorry if I'm missing anyone's comments. I'm starting to get a lot of comments, which I do like. See, when it comes to pushing the hue variation on portraiture, I would usually wait to do that until you have a couple more layers of, basic skin tone, which is what we're doing, before pushing. And when you push color variation, I would suggest doing it through glazes. Just my opinion. Let's see. More questions. Sorry, everyone. I'm trying to keep up with the questions. Do I buy the huge tubes? And does it save money in the long run, or do the paints go bad? Again, that's a really good question. It does have to do with the the topic of mixing skin tones. If I were to buy one large tube and say it would be one of the best purchases I've ever made. All right, everyone. Williamsburg handmade oil colors, Flake White. This is a series 4 color, 150 milliliters. No, I'm not paid by Williamsburg to say this. This is a really good paint tube to purchase. The paint isn't really going bad in the tube, though, the paint is so thick, I actually have to lean it on my chair and press my palm on it to get the paint to to push out. But the paint is fine. It's just I have to put some tape around the edges because it would actually break through. That's how thick the paint is. It would break through the metal here, but this is my most recommended paint tube if you're going to buy a large paint tube. Because, all my other paint tubes are smaller. This is the only big one that I have. Why? Because of finances. Now, if I could have all of them larger paint tubes, I would. But finances are a thing. Definitely. Let's see, more questions. Right eye should be higher. Let me see. Maybe. I'm not really seeing it. I can look into that. Yeah, Bob Ross was ahead of the game, yeah. But he was also a really good entertainer. The left eye should be higher. Oh, you know what? I see that. Yeah, I see that. Let's do it. So what I do is I'll just go right in with skin tone. And just kind of like in the Alizarin style. You're right. It should be a tad bit higher. Thank you so much for pointing that out. So I go in with skin tone, and when I move a feature, I usually will move it about 1 millimeter. So say about, let's see. So this much, no, this tiny little bit. So I will move the eye. I'll actually use the underpainting color, or the Umber drawing color, which is my French Umber. I do see that I'm missing some questions. Yeah, underpainting. That's how I start my students. Actually, I have them start with a grisaille. Yeah, Kyle. Yeah, definitely. Bob Ross created a good method that was easily reproducible. Yep, impressionistic alla prima landscape. Yep, that's definitely what he did in a wonderful way. What do I do to avoid chalkiness when adding white to flesh tones? Awesome question. If you're going to be using titanium white, that's usually one of the downfalls of titanium white, is that it can get kind of chalky. So basically, if you're trying to avoid over chalkiness, just in terms of materials, flake white would be the way to go. And even though flake white gets a bad rap because of the fact that it has lead, it's really not as dangerous as people think. So I'm moving the eye up a little bit. Hey Ben from California. What is up? So I'm moving. All right, so previous suggestion was to move this left eye up a little bit, and I see that. Yeah, oftentimes if I'm sitting too long, because I have to sit and moderate the internet connection and all that stuff. I don't have a team. It's just me. I had someone help me with my website, hence why it's outdated, because I don't know how to use WordPress to update it. All right, let's see. So I moved the eye up a little bit. Oh, no worry, Giancarlo. I'm glad that you're watching. I'm sorry there's some, I guess, a mistranslation, but I'm glad that you're here watching, listening, commenting. You know, I appreciate everyone here, listening to the stream. Hey, Will from Australia, what's up? Australia, awesome. You know, I have two bearded dragons. I have, yeah, two bearded dragons. I would really love to visit Australia. All right, so I moved the eye up a little bit just by moving essentially one brush stroke up and then the other brush stroke up. You know, a little safe, I'll show you a little safe check to do in a second. So there are, oh, thanks, Dondo. Yes, thank you to everyone that is hitting the like button. I really approve this message of hitting the like button. One thing you can do is use here's a T-square. I'm not leaning the T-square on the painting, in case you're wondering. I don't want to leave a mark on the painting, but if you run a horizontal across the tear duct, and it's actually above the upper eyelid, so it's just resting above the upper eyelid here. So what I'm going to do is cheat a little bit. Don't tell anybody. So I'm going to get my photo reference and do the same thing. And the lower eyelid is kind of matching with the upper diagonal there, or the horizontal line, sorry. Kind of, but you know, I think that it was a little lower, but it's not, you know, it's not so much to, it wouldn't harm the painting. Oh yeah, yeah, I would imagine that with repping. You know who's a really nice painter that doesn't get as much credit, that does do kind of like a wild, chaotic, but then controlled painting as a, I think his first name is Antonio Mancini. Has anyone heard of Mancini? Alright, I keep forgetting to mix or put in the sclera color. See, I know that I was trying to, because for the sclera, the white of the eye, I use flake white, ivory black, and a little bit of skin tone. Oh yeah, Antonio Mancini, I'll definitely check him out. Yep, I'm glad you heard of Mancini. Awesome painter. I wonder if I got his first name wrong, but his last name is Mancini. Now it appears that there's a little teardrop on our model's left eye, which is the eye to the right for us. Oh yeah. Yeah, I wish I could do more figure paintings. Yeah, he did do that, but you know, internet can't do that. Oh, nice. Good one, Ben. Let's see. I guess we'll paint in that. We'll paint in that little teardrop looking thing. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really keep up with sports. And what's cool about this is that most likely, actually, very likely, um, Anthony Van Dyck himself probably painted this tear looking thing. This highlight here on the eye. He probably painted it with the same thing, with a lead white. Isn't that cool? Just to think about. Now a little bit of the raw umber, the French raw umber. I want to put in this tone that I haven't really been emphasizing. Now we're getting into the very subtle stuff, the little nitty gritty stuff. So let's try to keep the, all right, let's see, upper eyelid on the right. What? I'm confused. The upper eyelid on the right. Maybe it's too small. Could be. Could be. This is very fun virtual painting session. Let's see. Pablo, do I ever face a problem with impatience while painting? Oh yeah, oh yeah. Oh yeah, I definitely sound like a very calm and collected person that knows exactly what I'm doing. That's not me at all. I do get impatient with painting a lot. It's just it's not on camera. I'm a human being. I get upset with myself and with my paintings oftentimes. I'm not afraid to admit I've destroyed paintings before because I got impatient with them or they just needed to go. Um, it happens, it's a part of the process. Um, I heard this interview. Hey, Stephen from UK. I heard this interview from old YouTube video, and someone was interviewing Jeremy Lipking, and Jeremy Lipking said that in a painting he can go through all the emotions, and you really kind of do. In a painting, I mean, since it's something that takes a while to create, there are moments when you're motivated, you're excited to go to your painting, and there are other moments where you're staring at the painting and it's like, what did I do? You kind of dread it sometimes, and sometimes you're kind of in limbo. Sometimes I'm in limbo. I'm like, what am I gonna do next? How am I going to improve my paintings? Hey, Giancarlo, how you doing? Yeah, Kyle. Yeah. We all get frustrated with painting, but in particular, I mean, I'm not afraid to admit here on live broadcasting that I do lose my patience often with painting. I really do. Um, it's something that it's an emotion that happens because you're so passionate about your work, and it goes away. I go and hang out with my pets. I keep ball pythons. Only two ball pythons. They're little babies. They don't get very big. If anyone is afraid of ball pythons, they're like, I have two males, so they're gonna get like from here to the edge of the screen. That they don't get that huge. But in any case, whenever I'm stressed out, I revert to my pets, or I'll call my fiance and just tell her I'm frustrated with my artwork. Then she calms me down. Imposter syndrome all day. Well, like, I guess. Yeah, we go through all the emotions, us painters. I'm sure we can all relate. Now I'm painting in the shadow tone of the sclera of the eye. And this is something I want to point out because it's always missed. Not always, I shouldn't say that. It's oftentimes missed that the white of the eye, the sclera, has dimensionality to it. Therefore, it has a shadow. Think about the, what's it called? The cue ball. When you're playing pool or billiards, however you call it, the white ball. That's kind of what the sclera is like. So there is definitely a shadow tone here. I'm going to use the French Umber. I don't want it to be too blue. Let's keep the questions going. So I'm not so much of a sleeping aid, although I've heard that I make a really good sleeping aid, my videos. I guess nothing wrong with that, if the videos help you. So right now this is a little too blue, so I'm using raw umber. Oftentimes you have to know your palette to know which color will help to combat another color. So the flake white and the ivory black made a little too much of a bluish color, so I'm kind of trying to dull it down with the French umber. And if it's just not working, what I'm going to get is, which is not working right now, I'll get a scrubby scrub brush, which is just a used up bristle brush, and subtract. But what this will also do is kind of mush the paint into the surface. I might need a smaller one. Smaller brush. All right, now we'll put the darker tone for the iris. What's up, Mike? Oh, welcome back. I'm glad you like the way the painting is coming out. I just messed up the eye right there. Rampage! Rampage! Gonna get angry at the painting. No, I'm not gonna get angry at the painting. Sometimes you put something in and it doesn't work, and you have to. It's called noodling. They would call this noodling at Studio Incominati. I don't know if they call it noodling anymore, but when you put something in and it doesn't quite work, you take it out, then you put it back in. Again, that's noodling. So I was noodling there for a little bit, but now I think we're getting out of that. Let's see, Kyle. So gessoing watercolor paper so you can get back into oil paints. Hair dryer between each layer of gesso. It is possible. I recommend, and the materials that I use, by the way, are in the description box of this video. I may take the cotton canvas out because I pretty much stopped using cotton canvas, but I would recommend Liquitex Professional Acrylic Gesso if you're going to be using acrylic gesso, and you could use a blow dryer to speed the drying, but typically what I do is I will gesso it in the morning. Suppose this was just raw, panel. Gesso it in the morning, and then the next day I will sand it lightly, gesso it again with the Liquitex Professional Acrylic Gesso, and I did that for about a week. And then then I toned it with oil paint. So that's how I prepared this surface. So all in all, I think the surface took 2 weeks to prepare. Hey, Giancarlo. What's up, Steven? You can't get lead or flake white in UK? Really? Oh, I'm sorry. In most of Europe. So you use flake white hue. Well, it could work. Gamblin makes a pretty good flake white substitute that I've used. Okay, the Gregorian underpainting. Did I even pronounce that right? Underpainting white is good. So, yeah, this dialogue is really good. And I noticed in the post, once this does upload, you can actually see the chat. So you can scroll through and see the chat, which is pretty cool. So I really like what this is, this HD live streaming is adding to the viewer experience. And for me too. I mean, for selfish reasons, this is fun for me. And I'm hoping, through this interconnectivity that, if you're sitting there listening to me and if you enjoy this content, then hopefully you'll join us on Patreon, the online class community. I really want to see the online class community grow. All right, let's see. I think I missed a couple questions. Let me see. So you're working on a night cityscape impressionistic Pam style for homework. Impressionism by definition, if I'm going to go from the old school definition, impressionism is about emphasis on the light key. So whatever the light key may be, whether it's like you're painting a nightscape, sunlight, if you're painting cool north light. It's really about the light key when it comes to impressionism. Let's see if I missed any more comments. Okay, so yeah, when you're looking at a device, so when you're looking at a screen, like how I usually paint with the iPad screen or the laptop screen, you really have to interpret color by comparing the values and the hues to one another. It's not really possible to copy it from the screen, from my understanding, simply because it's not the same as a original painting. It's not the same as a printout, though I've been told that it's a little better to use screens than printouts. I don't really know, but you do have to interpret the colors and the shapes. All right, Giancarlo, painting is your passion. Awesome, painting is my passion too. Kyle, you have acrylic gesso, a few layers for quick sketches. Yeah, acrylic gesso is good. Just make sure, not to hate on anybody, but if you have acrylic gesso, just beware of the Liquitex Basics. Liquitex Basics, it'll work, but it's not quite as usable as Liquitex Professional, which is the one I use. What's up, Arcadian Art? For anyone interested in copying masterwork, you can use a trace app. Oh, there's a trace app. Oh, I didn't know. What's up, Giancarlo? Hopefully everything is okay. Tracing app. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with tracing. Tracing has been somewhat seen to be understood as a, what's the word, pejorative thing, but I don't think so. Whatever gets the job done, really. I'm very much a results-based painter. It's just, for me, it's more fun to not trace. So to everyone watching, notice that I still, and I won't with this entire sitting, work with any medium. So I'm still using whatever oil is in the oil paint itself. And remember, fat over lean means you want to have less medium in the earlier layers and introduce more medium later on. No, I don't think I've heard about Chuck Black art. I can definitely look into it. I do see that I can emphasize the upper eyelid a little bit. Interesting. So the eyelid to the right, when we're looking at the photo reference, is a little bigger than the eyelid here. Maybe that was something to do with the likeness of the model. Yeah, of course, Arcadian. Yeah, yeah, just for the outlines, it's okay. There's nothing wrong with using the outlines. You know, I always tell my students the principles are fundamental regardless of which approach you use or which material you use. The principles are fundamental. And I usually say that every technique will meet somewhere in the middle, and that's usually the middle stages of painting. Really, all the work happens, in my opinion, in the middle. Don't worry, Giancarlo. I got you. Don't worry. Steven. So you buy cheap canvas panels and give them 6 coats of gesso. Let's see. 2 black, 2 gray, 2 white. For your sins. You use Bob Ross gesso. Don't worry. I'm sure it's good. I just, I kind of gave up or renounced using cotton canvas for finished works. I may use cotton canvas now and then for sketches, but in general, if you Google the shelf life of cotton canvas, it's about 50 years, which is all right. But, you know, if you look up the mummy paintings, some of the oldest known paintings to have survived to this day, I think they're like 2,000 years old or something like that. You can correct me if I'm wrong. They're painted on wood, and they're still good. And as someone said, last time the Mona Lisa was painted on a wooden panel. So I just prefer to paint on panels. And what's up, Diego? You know, everyone, today I actually just ordered for the first time from Jerry's Artorama. I ordered aluminum panels. I ordered 5 of them. Right now, go check them out. There's a sale going on with their aluminum panels. So I am going to be trying to paint on aluminum panels. I'll probably oil prime them before I start painting on the aluminum surfaces. I'm currently working on copper. A 5x7 inch miniature copper painting. And mainly just because it's more archival. Why don't I use an oil lead ground instead of acrylic ground? I do want to use oil lead ground, exactly. It's just I haven't gotten there. I just haven't made the commitment to go to the plaza and spend the $32.99 it is for that Williamsburg lead ground. But I do want to work on the lead grounds more. So full disclosure, I'm not working on the lead ground just because I haven't purchased it yet, but I will most likely purchase it very soon. Now, after standing back, I see that I'm missing some the dark tones for the some of the dark tones for the concavity of the eye socket. Now I'm actually going to use my turpentine for the first time, and again, I'm just going to use it to clean the brush. I'm not going to use it to thin anything out. It's just I finally ran out of brushes, so I'm gonna thin it out. Try to clean the brush with the distilled turpentine. And see how I'm kind of gauging this value off of this one? Because this value right here is kind of akin to this value. So what I want is a step down, maybe a couple steps down. So that's why I'm gauging this value off of this value to paint this section. See, it's too dark. So now I can just gauge it off of this again. What's up, Giancarlo? I'm glad you're enjoying this stream. I'm glad you're enjoying this stream. See how I'm using this again to gauge this tone? So let's try it again. Let's try to hit it again. And that's getting closer. So see how I use the colors on the palette to gauge the tones on the painting. A little bit at a time. Arcadian art. Do I ever use? Oh, Pam, you gotta go. Most likely Wednesday around the same time, 5 p.m. You know, Eastern United States time. I'll probably be here. Most likely be here. Do I ever use subtraction? I do. I'm glad you're enjoying this. Yeah. When I started this, I actually subtracted. If you notice here, I actually subtracted for this shape, and sometimes I'll take a scrubby scrub. So let me show you. Scrubby scrub brush is what I call a bristle brush that's used up. If I don't like what I painted, I can subtract a little bit of it, or I can use a piece of paper towel. But I do use subtraction. So I'm really just trying to draw the corner of the shadow side for the upper eyelid. And again, this is kind of an accelerated way, even though it seems very slow paced. This is an accelerated way of working, you know, when you compare it to what I suggest and recommend my students do on Patreon. So again, anyone watching this now or in the future, if you are interested in taking online classes with me or just chatting with me, like, you know, on a more regular basis, definitely check out the patreon.com/upariartist. With YouTube, it does get very difficult with the comments because I do get hundreds of them a day on my dashboard. But with Patreon, I get maybe 10 or so of them. So I'm like a hawk. Like I'm always looking very closely at the messenger. So Patreon's also a good way if anyone wants to, you know, talk with me or ask me questions, like very specific questions, alongside the virtual classroom and the online classes. Giancarlo, you love Baroque? Yeah, also Baroque, definitely. Of course, our buddy here, Van Dyck, is from the Baroque period. And you know, one of the major differences between painters of this time period, of the Baroque time period, is drawing. The emphasis on drawing, which is again something I strongly push with my students, and with great results. You know, one of my students, shout out to you, Kathy, if you're still here. One of my students, Kathy, has made tremendous progress with her drawing and henceforth her painting. Because it does make a difference, because you really, you know, you're looking to solve problems when you're drawing, and that's what you want to be able to do when you're painting. Hey, Kathy, you're still here. Awesome. But yes, drawing is definitely one of the big things when it comes to, progressing in this kind of classical style of painting. And notice, here we are going an hour 45. That's crazy. It doesn't even feel like an hour 45. I haven't touched the yellow, the Gamboge like extra, so let's actually use it. Let's use it. And I use the yellow very sparingly, and I will use it either in the highlight or I will use it to create a very deep green if I'm painting a still life or a landscape or something. But here's where I would probably use the Gamboge like extra here. So let's go ahead and mix. All right, awesome. We got another comment. So D Michigan, awesome username. I haven't tried oil painting yet, but it always amazes me how rough the underpainting can be, yet the finished painting can be so smooth. You know what? Check out Nelson Shanks. He's my superhero when it comes to painting. And, going back to the Gamboge like extra, see how little I used. It's a very transparent yellow, but it's a perfect color to tint something yellow. So when you mix flake white with the Gamboge like extra, you get a really nice off yellow. It's almost like lead tin yellow, very historical color. So let's see. If you look at Nelson Shanks, D Michigan, if you look at Nelson Shanks, how he starts, if you look at some of the time lapses on YouTube, I mean, it's wild. It's wild. And then if you look at his finishes, you're like, what? Like it's really down to the fundamental relationship between line and mass. So a line is a pathway between 2 points. A mass is a blob that is two-dimensional in nature that you can control. Everything here is a mass. And I'm basically working with mass. So if you start off with that mentality of mass, you can create something that's chaotic because it's two-dimensional, but it doesn't have too many fixed boundaries. But then you introduce your understanding of line being a pathway between 2 points, and you then steer your masses, which can be crazy, into more specific things that can look more realistic. So it's all down to the fundamentals. And again, more information on that is in my lessons on Patreon. So in case you're interested, or if anyone's interested. Yep. Oh, thanks, Kathy. Yeah, this is color underpainting because I'm building through not the exact colors, but more or less the exact values to then get to the exact colors. Does paint grade matter? Yeah, Arcadian. Unfortunately, it does matter quite a bit. When it comes to this right here, when it comes to the white that you use, and also when it comes to, believe it or not, the brown, the umber, it really matters. Great question. Let's see. Oh, thanks for watching all my videos. Awesome, Giancarlo. Thank you so much. Let's see. Sorrel. So, let me see. Sorority? Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Negative and positive space. Awesome question. Now, when it comes to negative and positive space, again, this I must say this is not. This is a virtual painting session. For lessons, we definitely have the online lessons on Patreon now. But when it comes to negative and positive space, those are tools more useful when it comes to drawing. And when you're drawing, you want to think of negative and positive shapes. This right here is a positive shape. It's a shape that's enclosed. Here is a negative shape. As I compared, this kind of looks like the nose to a little piglet here, similar to the TV show Seven Deadly Sins, the little piglet, pea trot piglet. You see that this is a negative shape. You can think of it abstract, like the head of the piglet down to the, I guess, the nostril of the piglet, down to the mouth of the piglet. So you can think of it abstract, and then thinking of it more abstract can actually help it become more realistic in an odd way. All right, let's see. Oh, Nelson. Okay, I'll type his name out for you. All right, so Nelson Shanks, I typed out his name for you. And again, for those of you watching this in the future, after this is done and it is a pre-recorded painting session, definitely check out the comments, because this is a very useful tool that we have here, the internet, the live stream, because the dialogue is multiplied in usefulness, in my opinion. I really enjoy all the questions that I'm getting here. Now I'm starting to put in a little more of a highlight here for the upper lip. Let's see. Oh, awesome. All right, so now I'm going to move into the mouth. And before, I had to really double check that distance because I had to move the nose. So I usually check from the bottom of the root of the nose. Sorry, not the root. The bottom of the nose to the top middle portion of the upper lip. And I just kind of eyeball it, and it seems all right to me. The highlight is a little high up there, but it seems all right to me. So I'm just moving the highlight down a little bit. Thanks again to everyone leaving a like and everyone commenting. The comments and the questions really add a lot to the dialogue. I really enjoy the questions. You know, before I would have to try and figure out what, what questions would arise when I'm painting and talking and filming and stuff. And now it's awesome because I actually get to read the questions and talk about the questions, trying to answer the questions to the best of my knowledge. So see how I'm using the color, what I refer to as color value web, just organization of skin tones in terms of their values. See how I'm using the web here to push these areas darker. Hi, Chrysalida. Oh, awesome. I'm glad you've joined in. I hope that the internet connectivity is working. Honestly, I'm no expert when it comes to this. It took me forever to figure out how to set up a HD live stream. I'm definitely not a tech-oriented person. And here's an area, right, Arcadian art. My favorite painter at the moment seems to be, my favorite painting ever is the Lady of Shalott, if I can pronounce properly, by John William Waterhouse. But my favorite painter of all time right now is Nelson Shanks. And I was so lucky to get to meet him. in Philadelphia, as I did go to Studio Incominati, the school that he and his wife Leona started or founded. Yep. Oh, thanks, Kathy, for checking the internet for me. I'm glad that it's working. Yep, D Michigan, this is my live show. Hopefully it's working out because it took me forever to figure out how to set up my Canon T7i with my Blue Yeti microphone, the materials I'm using, set it up with a professional-ish microphone, and get it to stream with the photo reference. Man, it took me forever. But yeah, this is my new painting show. I'm going to be calling these virtual painting sessions. Yeah, Giancarlo, yeah, I can talk about underpainting. Yes, D Michigan, I did say that Wednesday. The schedule is kind of tentative, but I'll let you know. I'll let everyone know in the, what's it called? The community section. But most likely this Wednesday, Eastern United States time, 5 o'clock. All right, let's talk about underpainting, Giancarlo. So when you're creating an underpainting, I consider this underpainting, color underpainting. What you're doing is you're setting up the drawing for the development of the color. So what you're doing with an underpainting is you're setting up the surface with not so much oil, but rather more pigment, so that when you paint over this or paint onto this, build onto this, you have a better painting experience as each layer progresses. So underpainting is setting the stage for the rendering. It's setting the stage for the more advanced color. And underpainting is typically easier to do in grisaille. So grisaille is when you're just doing this in monochrome, in basically flake white and raw umber. And it's the way that I recommend to my students. It's the way that I teach my students. Remember, this is a virtual painting session, not a painting lesson. So I'm moving at my own rate. But when I'm teaching my students, I take every step, I put every step into focus. All right, we got a couple more questions here. Yes, Nishi. The nice thing about this is that YouTube posts it for me. So I can be asleep and then the YouTube will post this as a pre-recorded video when the stream is completed. Usually in about a couple hours time or an hour's time. I don't know. Something like that. All right, Stephen Beard. Bugaro is your favorite artist at the moment. Oh, with me. Oh, thank you so much for your kind words. I've definitely got a long way to go, but yeah, Bugaro is definitely on a technical level one of my favorite painters. Yeah, Bugaro, definitely. There's a nice documentary or more of a lecture on Bugaro here on YouTube. Gonna use the French Umber to neutralize the color a little bit. And this is one of my favorite colors, skin tones to paint, because it's like a half tone that's so close to the shadow, so close to the umber, but it's just a couple steps ahead, so it's the subtlety. Remember, subtlety just means how close can I get a value to another value, yet maintain the subtle variation between the two. Thanks again for everyone leaving a like. Wow, look at that. We're almost at 90 likes. Oh, we just hit 90 likes. Who just hit the last like button? Who just hit the last like button? Thank you so much. We're at 90 likes. Wow. Look at that. Shout out to you, whoever just hit the last, hit the like button and sent us to 90. What is up? Oh wow, thank you so much. You're watching from Egypt. Thank you so much. This is just one of the most fun things ever, I must say. And remember everyone that 93, we're at 93. My program says 92, but whoever, left the 93rd like, thank you so much as well. This is unbelievable. At this rate, we're gonna definitely have way more of these virtual painting sessions. And don't forget, if you're curious about online classes, patreon.com/upariartist. Sorry for the shameless plugs, but you gotta do what you gotta do. And more than that, I really enjoyed teaching in general. If anyone's curious about my background, I started painting when I was in my senior year of high school, like seriously painting, like realist painting. Not that any other painting isn't serious, but I mean, I started really being serious about painting when I was in high school. And then I kind of took a couple years off and then got a math degree. So I have experience as a math tutor. I was tutoring Calculus 1, Calculus 2, linear algebra, a little bit of differential equations. So that's my teaching background, really trying to figure out how to convey the information as clearly as possible. And that is a puzzle that I really enjoy. So I really enjoy teaching my classes. It's something I've always enjoyed. All right, let's see. I think I missed a lot of questions here. What's up? Here from Brazil. Awesome, awesome. Thanks for all the comments, everyone. Now I have to sit back. All right, so let's see. So this is what I call a lost edge. A lot of people call this a lost edge, lost and found edge, but especially in your underpaintings, Giancarlo, you had questions about underpaintings. In particular, with your underpaintings, you want to work lighter and you want to work softer. So softer edges, lighter values, because when you're layering later, as you'll see later on, it's much easier to create a sharp edge than it is to create a soft edge. And also it's much easier to layer darker than it is to layer lighter. No, Liquitex, that's a good brand for gesso and acrylic. Or sorry, for gesso and for acrylic painting, Liquitex is a really good brand. So this is one of those really nice flake white moments. Well, there's the paint drag. It's heavy, but it's also kind of like a melted butter. See how the brush is kind of slowly falling, but gravity is kind of being resisted by the thickness of the lead white. So that's one of those really nice moments of using lead white. Those of you that have used lead white or are using lead-based white. So it's really nice when you can see the layers underneath showing through. And don't worry, I'm not going to be rubbing my fingers into the lead white. What's up, Chrysalida? Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, thanks to everyone that's leaving a like. Look at that. We're on 98 likes. Wow. I would have never imagined. Yep. Yep, Giancarlo, Liquitex Professional is the way to go. And I don't have as much experience with acrylic, but you know, I can paint a portrait with acrylic, but definitely Liquitex is one of those brands that I would highly recommend. Yeah. Oh, we had 100 likes. What? Team Michigan, thanks for pointing that out. My program here doesn't really say that I have 100 likes, but awesome. I noticed in the photo reference this part isn't visible, but this part is. So this is the suprasternal notch. This is the sternocleidomastoid going all across here. This brushstroke actually represents sternocleidomastoid on this side and on this side. And you know, if I get any of the anatomy terms wrong, please feel free to correct me. And you can, if you go to Google Arts and Culture, and you zoom in, remember I have a link to it. And if you zoom in, I don't know if can I point at the photo reference? If you look right here at the photo reference, you actually see the direction of the brushstroke. And I heard that back then they only had round brushes. So I can actually see right here the paintbrush making the mark. So I can see the brushstroke and I can see the resistance that his color had here to the tone that he was painting on. Definitely evidence to me, circumstantial at that, but evidence to me that again he was using lead-based white similar to this. Obviously that statement's trivial because that's all they had back then. All right, let's see. D Michigan. Is lead white really that special / different? I am surprised that many oil painters still use it, but they say it is not really replaceable by other whites. You know, this is one of those questions that can spark an argument when it comes to colors. But one thing I'm really fortunate about is all of my viewers are so nice and so understanding, and I really appreciate that. So I feel confident that I can answer your question without a riot. So the thing about flake white is, let me tell you, I didn't use flake white for the longest time, and yes, the thing about it having lead freaked me out. And when I started using it, I would say that it's the Fast and Furious living on the wild side. If you're an oil painter, if you use flake white, that's how I would say it. And I just tried it once, just kind of on a whim, just like, is it really all that? And let me tell you, if you don't use it to its full potential, then it isn't. It isn't really all that. But if you use it like this, okay, no medium has gone into this at all. No linseed oil, no walnut oil, just Williamsburg and Old Holland and 1 Rublev. So all professional quality oil paints. If you use it like this and you use, check it out, a whole bunch of brushes, and you use the paint in its entirety, like all of its thickness, the resistance that the paint has adds quite a lot of texture, quite a lot of layer. You'll see this in a lot of Rembrandts. You'll see the impasto, and I pointed it out here. You see the evidence of that resistance that the paint had, and it just really helps with texture, and it helps with mixing flesh tone. So sorry for that long-winded explanation. Let's see if I missed any more questions. Any favorite pop artists or contemporary artists? In terms of pop artists, like contemporary style painters, not the, I don't know if, well, okay, he considers himself to be a contemporary realist, so I'll point him out. Carrie Dunn, who I also have met before. He's one of my favorite when it comes to contemporary style painting, Carrie Dunn. So Carrie Dunn, Dunn. Thanks, Giancarlo. So those of you that haven't tried Flake White, try rewatch this very carefully. And also, if you want more information, there's definitely my online classes. But there is a lot that you can get out of using Flake White, especially for figurative painting. I even use it for still life. I've completely switched to Flake White. You know, I want to. Who thinks I should make some merchandise? I want to make a merchandise section and put T-shirts representing Flake White, or representing raw umber, French umber, right? Representing ivory black, representing yellow ochre, representing all of these colors, representing this whole palette. Every color is beautiful. Every color is valid, and and every color has its use. And titanium white too, even though even though it sounds like I don't like titanium white, it is an arm's length away from me. So I have titanium white right next to me. So this is evidence that I have used titanium white extensively in the past. So, every color has its use. Nelson Shanks. He is so the question was about Nelson Shanks. He was also considered a contemporary realist painter. He's most famous for his portrait of presidential portraits here in the U.S. Also of a portrait of Princess Diana. He's very famous for painting, those kinds of commissioned portraits. All right, let's see. So now I'm going to step back. I'm actually going to step off of my chair for the first time in 2 hours and 12 minutes. Let's hope my legs don't collapse. And I'm back. My legs didn't collapse. All right, so almost there for this layer. And remember, this is the color underpainting. And of course, I try to have more thickness to the paint quality in the skin tones. So this is another reason why I deliberately won't touch the background yet. I build it up like this, and this could go on for multiple layers. Even if I figure something out and say that it is the exact value, the exact color, and in the exact place that I want it to be, I will sometimes go in and repaint it and do this so that I can have a thicker consistency of paint. And that's just something I like to do. Have more paint build up because it looks cool. Huh? Yep. Giancarlo, everything is good here. Everyone is safe and sound here. I'm going to push the dark for the tear duct now. Oh, I'm glad you're painting with me. Awesome. Let's keep these virtual painting sessions alive. D Michigan, will thicker paint make it more realistic? Yes and no. It really depends on the subject matter. When it comes to skin tones, this stuff, yeah, it does make a difference. Especially when you see layers upon layers upon layers that build up to a fine finish. The texture itself does make it look more realistic. The problem is it's not as noticeable when photographed. I try the best that I can. I do have a fairly decent quality DSLR camera to photograph, but sometimes you really just have to see them in person to see how the thickness of the paint really helps. Painting is never really finished until sold. You know what? That's true. That is true. Oh, I'm glad the eye looks like it's coming alive. Yes, Chrysalida, I'm not using any medium. How long will this take to dry? Possibly somewhere between 24 to 48 hours to be touch dry. Touch dry. Touch dry for me means it's workable enough for another layer. But it always depends on the paints sometimes. Old Holland, Williamsburg, they tend to dry, in my opinion, a lot faster than, say, Winsor Newton. Winsor Newton has safflower oil, which is not a problem, but it does make the paints stay wet a little bit longer. Let's see. Again, I mean, it's easiest to contact me on with Patreon, with the online classes. And again, the the online classes are only $10 a month, and then there's a $20 a month live stream that is for patrons that want to watch the lessons uploaded live. But the all of that content is through, again, links that are sent. So they're unlisted YouTube videos. They're sent. Oh, well, yeah. I mean, through that platform, it's much easier to stay in contact with me. It's a little more difficult with the the YouTube community. So is anyone interested in eyebrows when it comes to drawing and painting eyebrows? What I usually do is when I have the eyebrows here in the Umber drawing, I will probably do something like this. Off with your eyebrows. Get a lawnmower and take off their eyebrows. And then I will wet on wet, add the eyebrows back. So again, I apologize if I missed any questions in the span of, all of these questions. All right, Andy, thanks for tuning in. Yeah, most likely we'll be back here on Wednesday around a similar time. Always start with eyebrows. Oh yeah, there's always the thirds. Last time so when I streamed this on Saturday, the beginning of this, I do use actually the eyebrows. So the forehead to the eyebrows is a third. Eyebrows to the bottom of the nose is another third. Typically, not always, but typically. So now I'm painting the eyebrows back in Alla Prima. So I paint it pretty thick actually. And then I'll get a very soft clean brush and use it to get the desired effects. Hey Tamara. So now let me get a clean, soft brush, and this is what I do. Again, more information is in my online classes, but in a nutshell, this is what I do with the eyebrows. And usually when I do this, I will dry clean a brush. Yeah, the eyebrows do get kind of gray. Actually, this is something that I've noticed a lot. So with brunette hair or dark hair, usually it's pretty nice to go towards the warm gray right up here. So there's a top plane for the eyebrows. Oh, thank you. There's a top plane for the eyebrows here, and you can paint it in by kind of blending the tone that you put in Alla Prima for the eyebrow, mixing it in with the skin tone, the surrounding skin tone. And it's usually actually more gray than we think. So now you see how I'm getting the desired effects for the eyebrows. And this is actually something I'll most likely do again in the next layer. Off with the eyebrows and then put the eyebrows back. It just helps with the subtlety. You get something that's very naturalistic, as opposed to an eyebrow that's just fully painted in. You know, like one thick line. Diego Velasquez, you do see this kind of effect with Diego Velasquez. I do change brushes a lot, Arcadian art. Yeah, there's a lot of brushes down here. I do change brushes a lot as opposed to constantly cleaning them. Chrysalida, yeah, Winsor Newton, especially their titanium white, it does take a long time to dry, Chrysalida. But there's also the Griffin Alkyd with Winsor Newton. This is the titanium white. What you can do is mix this with your titanium white to expedite the drying time. Thanks, Giancarlo. You can mix this, the Alkyd, into your titanium white, make it dry faster. This on its own, if I paint it really thick, it would probably take about a day, even if I paint it really thick. Thanks, Marty. All right, so now I'm going to stand back again and see if anything is missing. And again, this will be, YouTube will thankfully do a lot of the work for me and publish this to the public as a pre-recorded video after I'm done filming. So, you know, if you're just tuning in, don't worry, you'll be able to see the pre-recorded footage. And if you're wondering if I'm going to do live streams in the future, I do want to do more live streams. It really depends on the, you know, just how it goes, you know, in terms of, is this what everyone wants to see? Because I enjoy doing these. I would love to do more of these. You know, it matters when it comes to the analytics. But most likely Wednesday, I will do another one around the same time, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Remember, I'm located in the DC area, Maryland, DC, Virginia area. I mean, this is just wonderful. We have wonderful folks here from France. We have people here from Germany. Just to watch little old Upari here painting. So wonderful. I wouldn't have guessed this in a million years. Thanks, Marty. Oh, I'm glad that you like this setup. Thank you so much for that comment, because this setup, oh my goodness. This setup is hard. It's complicated for someone like me. Yeah, it was very difficult to set up a HD stream. So this should be able to stream at 1080p or 720p, but it should be able to stream at high definition. And I do have a microphone that's synced up to this audio. So I do have a pretty high quality microphone. Yeah, D Michigan. Yeah, I'm in Maryland. About 20 minutes away from DC. About 30 minutes away from Virginia. That is Northern Virginia. Yep, Nelly, the Zorn palette is awesome. This is not the Zorn palette, but it's based off of the Zorn palette. I have the Zorn palette here. Lead white, a primary red, and yellow ochre, and ivory black. So this is actually based off of the Zorn palette. It is 1080p? Awesome. Yes, I'm so glad that you can see this in 1080p. Yes, you have no idea the struggle I was in just like last week, walking around Best Buy, trying to figure out what I could do to, make this a possibility. And this is exactly how I'm going to be teaching my online lessons. Again, I've already uploaded about 14 lessons, or about to be 14 lessons. I think it actually is 14 lessons on my online class. And now my students that are in my live stream tier on Patreon will be able to see each online class. Of course, my online classes are more step-by-step than this. Now I can really start to build the light halftones in here. So what the online class on Patreon will do is it takes this virtual classroom, or this virtual painting classroom, whatever you want to call it, experience. It takes this virtual painting session and turns it into something tangible for anyone to learn. That's what my online classes do. Now, don't get me wrong, this is not a lesson. This is a virtual painting session. There's something special about watching live from the other side of the pond. midnight. Wow. Yeah, Steven. Yeah, it's about 7:31 p.m. here. Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, that's crazy. I would have never in my wildest imagination imagined this possible for me. Yep, no problem, Chrysalida. So now I'm really starting to cake on the flake white, and using a little bit of the Gamboge like extra. See here, there's a tiny bit of Gamboge like extra, and it's a really nice color to tint. I'm guessing it's very similar to, when you mix the two here, it's probably very similar to lead tin yellow. Oh, thanks, Kathy. Yep, the classes are only $10 a month on Patreon. Yeah, Crusalita, definitely. And again, you know, project 1 and project 2 are both very similar in the development in my online lessons to how I started this one. Very laid back, very step by step. So now I'm really starting to cake on the paint. So now I'm kind of approaching the pretty much the end of what this stage, the questions that need to be answered by this stage in the painting process. So now I'm just going to take the flake white and start to cake on the impasto. But I don't want it to be too heavy though. If I wanted it to be really heavy, I would get the palette knife and put a little bit of paint and then, you know, kind of mold it from there. Although it may not be as perceptible on the footage. Is this painting sold? If you mean the original, most likely the one, the Van Dyck. If you mean this one, no, this one isn't sold. I mean, it could be for sale. I mean, if somebody's interested. I do have an Etsy shop, so if anyone is interested in anything they see in the virtual classroom, just let me know. I can save it for you on Etsy. Oh, okay. Let's say Pablo Alex Tavares, if you didn't yet. No, I haven't. I'll definitely go through the comments here and check out the suggestions. Yeah, I haven't heard of them, but I'll check them out. Marty, yeah, if you're interested in this painting, yeah, definitely. You know, you can hang out with us as the painting develops, and you can, if you want, you can prepay for the painting on Etsy, and then we can ship it to you. Now, when it comes to pricing, I don't know if I can talk about pricing on the live streams, but we can definitely discuss that. So Marty, you can contact me on if you look in the description of this video, there should be a link to either Patreon or my website. Unfortunately, my website's kind of not it's not updated right now. So the best way to contact me would probably be either through Patreon or through the Etsy page. And I'll very likely be back here Wednesday. Now Wednesday, you know, if this isn't completely dry, then I'll probably start another or continue another one. Well, thank you, Marty. I'm glad that you have learned a lot from my videos. Pablo? It's called Simplified Drawing and Painting. You know, it sounds familiar. That's a YouTube channel, right? Yeah, if you're saying channel, most likely. Yeah, I'll check that out. Crystalita at 636 in Champaign, Illinois. Wow. Well, thanks for tuning in. Yeah, this is just magical. I mean, if you think about the very beginning of how I started this YouTube channel, the very first painting, which if anyone's interested, the very first painting I made for this YouTube channel, I still have. But in any case, if you think about the very beginning, I mean, it was just like a 4-minute time lapse. I didn't know, you know, what would happen with the YouTube channel. I just randomly did it, and I'm really happy with how things are now. It's crazy. All right, let's see. We got another question. What's up, Pablo? Danny, do you know of a better search engine for art? I find Google has too few images. I like working from images, but they're hard to find. Google is pretty good, Danny. If you check out Google Arts and Culture, I have a link to that actually. That's where this photo reference is taken from. It's kind of like Google Earth, where you can zoom in like really close and see all the details. It's called Google Arts and Culture. Arcadian, you're transitioning from acrylics to oils, struggling with brushes. I tell you what, a lot of people really, they're really into their brushes. I am not. I'm into my paints. So essentially, you can have a brush that's like, you know, how to put it. This brush is like probably less than $1, right? Whereas I could be doing the same thing with a brush that's, say, like $100. In my opinion, this is completely IMO, completely in my opinion. What matters is drawing and paint quality, materials quality in general in terms of painting support, painting materials, mediums. But mind you, you can just paint the whole thing with paper towel or something, like, you know, if you can control the paper towel, and the end result would still be very strong. So let's see. Struggling with brush care. No. I don't usually leave them in the turpentine after cleaning. I usually, to give you an example of how I clean these things, this brush is pretty old. I've used this brush a lot. I'll show you. And then I just leave it. I put it to the side and leave it. Now, if you want to go a step above that, if you have a more expensive brush, this one is about like $30 and it's about like 2 years old. It's gone through a lot of paintings. I will do the same exact thing with this, but then I will clean it with dish soap and hot water. So dish soap and hot water after you've cleaned it with turpentine. Oh yeah, probably. Yeah, Pinterest is pretty good too. Yep, thanks, Giancarlo. Yeah, Pinterest is another one, though, you know, I admit I don't really use it. But I've heard that Pinterest is really good for arts. Let's boost the highlight for the upper lip, or lower lip, a little more orangey. So he most likely used Vermilion. Ooh, I really want Vermilion. Does anyone here have or use genuine Vermilion? I'm curious. I'm curious about that color. What's up, Chrysalida? Oh, okay. Oh, thanks for the response. Hi, Alberto, from Bogota, Colombia. What's up? Oh, thank you so much, Regine. You've noticed how I've been transitioning with this painting and filming thing, and in the teaching. Thank you so much. Oh yeah, it's definitely been a journey. Like I mentioned in the beginning, I didn't know what I was doing. I had a Canon Vixia 800 and like a pretty inexpensive camcorder. I would set it up and then upload it, and then I wouldn't know what to do with it, so I would put it on time lapse. And then my very first voiceover ever, I think it was a video called Portrait Painting Tutorial. Um, the very first one ever, I didn't even have a microphone. I was just talking to the computer, and the voiceover happened by accident because I was going to put music for the painting footage, and I didn't know what music to find, and I was running on my deadline, so I was like, why don't I just talk? Why don't I just talk and see what comes out of it? And that's kind of how that started. It's crazy. Oh, thank you, Arcadian. I'm glad that I'm helpful for you. Yeah, definitely check out Patreon. Yep, patreon.com/upariartist. We have a lot of lessons on there, and the online classes are continuing to evolve. We have virtual classrooms, which have now actually moved to Tuesdays. They used to be on Mondays, but come to find out, streaming my online class on Monday and uploading a pre-recorded video on the same day doesn't work with my tech, so that's a thing. All right, take care. Thanks for joining in. Let's see, Pavlo. The mouth are just a little open. It could be. Okay, let me check it out. Let me stand back. And yeah, could be, could be. I could just push. Well, I also don't really have much for the upper lip, so I can show some evidence of the upper lip. Oh yeah, yeah, Regine, do you remember? You know, the for the past, I think, couple of months, I've been uploading painting and talking, so live talking, and that's all been in anticipation, Regina. It's all been in anticipation for this very task. Streaming, talking, and painting, and I really want to create this, virtual painting session, and of course, virtual classrooms, virtual painting lessons for my online students. I've been training myself to do this multitasking, and come to find out, it's actually really fun. It's really fun. I do not notice the time go by. So let me see if I can fix this lip problem. I might have too much. Yep, I have too much space here for the lower lip. Let's correct that. I mean, the conversation is great. I really think that this adds to the viewer's experience. And we're at 115 likes already. That's wild. So again, thanks to everyone that's leaving a like. And of course, everyone that's commenting, thank you so much. Oh wow, it's almost 2 past midnight, Pablo. Thank you so much for tuning in. Yeah, I'll figure out the mouth eventually. This is just color underpainting. But yeah, thanks for tuning in. Yeah, the eyes are definitely very difficult. And yeah, I usually save the eyes for, sometimes I'll save the eyes for last, as you mentioned, but for me, it's almost always the mouth. I almost always have the mouth in the wrong place. Wow, look at that. So we're going on 2 hours 45 minutes, and it feels like nothing. So I think I have done pretty much everything that I've been looking for. I'm gonna actually stand back. Oh wait, we got a comment. What's up, Steven? Your first paint along to one of my tutorials a couple years ago. Oh wow, thanks for staying this long. It was the green Alla Prima apple. Really awesome, the Alla Prima apple. Oh, and you framed it, put it in your kitchen. Awesome. Thanks, Steven. I'm glad that that painting tutorial helped you out. And I'm glad that you have painted it and framed it. That means so much. Thanks, Steven. Alright, so I'm going to stand back. Hopefully my legs don't give out on me. It's always, remember everyone, it's always a good idea to stand back at least 8 feet away from your painting to get some perspective, literally, perspective on your painting. And I'm back. Alright, so I don't see too much that's missing. Maybe the dark for the irises is probably a thing. So I'm going to get another brush and I'm going to clean it with the turpentine. What's up, Steven? Really? I'm so glad that the apple was a turning point for you. I'm really thankful that that you've been following these videos and that they've been helping you. And don't forget to check out the Patreon if you ever have a chance. I'd really love to have you on the Patreon. And, through the painting projects, see your portrait painting also developed. That'd be really neat. If you ever get the chance, Stephen. So let's see, Arcadian art. What blows your mind is when you look at Da Vinci's works, the precision with light and dark transitions. You know what? I was actually about to talk about that. So you're saying he was obsessed with optics. What do you focus on technically with your painting? All right, so that's a really good question. Thank you so much for that question. In my painting, I focus on depth also. Nelson Shanks would always talk about depth. That illusion of something real, something tangible. So that happens really in exactly what you said, because I was actually about to mention that. A lot of it happens here in the halftones, in the transitions, just as light turns into shadow, and describing the form in that sense, with your transitions from light into dark, is something that was taught to me by John DeMartin, the painter. I believe he's still based in New York, but John DeMartin also has a book out. He really taught me that in drawing a long time ago, and it's always stuck with me. So trying to get that effect of depth. I would also see that in Nelson Shanks paintings when I would see them in person. That illusion of form is just something that I've always been drawn to. But not just the realism about it, but the the individual characteristics and qualities that different painters have that train in the same discipline. And that's really fun to see. You can have like 100 different painters that train in the same atelier, the same technique, and you still see their own individual personalities and characteristics come through. All right, so let's see. Wow, Steven, you've painted 200 paintings since then. Yeah, I've painted a lot of paintings too, but I've had to unstretch a lot of them to make space in my home or in my little space. Yeah, definitely, Steven. I think that you will really, if you enjoy this content, I think you're really going to enjoy the Patreon. Even in the first tier is it's the $2 supporter tier. There's access to behind the scenes, but really a lot of the stuff happens with the $10 with the online lessons. But the supporters at the very beginning also get access to special videos I make just for them. So the behind the scenes. But it's up to you. It's up to you. Thank you, Giancarlo. Thank you for that comment. Oh yeah, the Patreon auto spelling is yeah, yeah. That's definitely the autocorrect is a thing. I don't think that the word Patreon is recognized yet with Google. Maybe it is. I don't really know. All right, so I'm gonna stand back again. You know what? I've messed up the same exact thing that I said I would. This little corner of the eye. Let me see. So I'm just gonna wing it. So I don't know what I'm doing here, but I'm gonna wing it. Sometimes you just have to go off of your instinct. I think that helped. I don't know. Had a little bit of a discrepancy here. Wow, look at that. We're at 121 likes. Again, thank you so much. Everyone that's leaving a like. And everyone that's, just listening and watching. Thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. What's up, Crazy Fist-ish? Started painting because of your videos. Oh, wow. Thank you so much. Bought some cheap acrylics and my first painting is absolutely horrendous. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, definitely keep going at it. And remember, we've got the online classes on Patreon. So they're designed to build up students from the ground up, in this kind of technique. Very step by step. So again, if you ever have the chance. What I want to do is have virtual painting sessions like this, and then online lesson virtual classes, and really utilize the technology. And I feel like this is an art form. I've said this before. I said this last time. I feel like this is my art form. Combining modern technology, video, and social media, well, I guess, YouTube, combining video, let's just say, combining video and painting in such a way that's beneficial for others is, I think, my art. It's also nice to have, people that really, emotionally support you, motivate you. For me, my biggest motivator, my biggest cheerleader is my fiance. And definitely, it's always good to have someone that motivates you and pushes you. So that also helps. All right, Arcadian art. Masterwork painting. Remember that masterwork paintings have wear and tear and fade that adds to character. Sometimes we get caught up in the very fine details. Yeah, that's true. That is very true. And that's one thing that I really like about this technique, because details are like nothing. Detail is not a thing. Until we get into the finesse, like the final layers, the details are usually just glazed on. onto something that's structurally sound, just like a building. You know, Nelson Shanks would say you can't tack the gutters onto I don't know, something like that. Nelson Shanks would say stuff like that. Like, you can't tack the gutters onto the building until the superstructure is there. Something like that. Of course, paraphrasing. So this is what happens when you accidentally smash the front of the paintbrush. One way to fix it is just to literally do this. And then use it as a blending brush, or just toss it. I think this brush just met its end. Yep, the brush met its end. So what I'll do, if this happens to a brush and I can't fix it, of course I'll try to fix it later, is I'll chop off the top part and then use the bottom part here as a scrubby scrub brush. And a scrubby scrub brush is, you know, just use it to scrub or push paint around. So I think we're almost there. So any last questions? I'm not leaving just yet, but maybe we'll hang out for another. Let's hang out for maybe another 4 minutes and complete the 3 hours. Because we're approaching 3 hours. It still doesn't really feel like 3 hours to me. And again, shout out to everyone that's watching, despite it being, you know, really late in your country or in your time zone. D Michigan, the problem with the brush is that I put it into my brush holder backwards by accident. So I smashed the side of the hairs or whatever, the bristles, even though this is synthetic. I accidentally put it into my brush holder that way. But you can also get something called a brush sharpener, it's called. That can also fix it. But yeah, it was my mistake. I put the brush into my container backwards. All right, thank you for the comment, Regine. If you went over a part too often and paint makes a structure you don't like, do you sand it away? No, I usually don't sand. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll get the palette knife and bring the paint down. The reason I don't sand is mainly because I use lead white, because I use a lead-based white. So that's one of the reasons I don't sand. You can do it, but you have to be careful. You have to wear a mask for sure. But I guess we're all used to that now. All right, let's see. Can you face the painting to the camera when you're done? Okay, yeah, I can do that before we sign out. You know what I can do that might be easier for you is move the painting itself. Because I have my autofocus. So with the camera, I have the autofocus set. So the way that I'm filming is I don't really have control over the focus if I move something out of this distance to my camera. So if I move the camera, I have to be very careful about it. not losing focus. But what I can do is just shift the canvas for you. So would I consider tracing over a projector image cheating? No, not really. I don't really consider tracing cheating, really, because even if we get the outlines, I mean, it's still pretty difficult, in my opinion, to complete a painting. Even if we have the outlines from a picture, it's still pretty difficult. So no, I wouldn't consider it cheating. Alrighty, so we are now at the 3-hour marker. So let me go ahead and move the setup so that you can see the painting without the distortion. Luckily, I can adjust the photo reference too, so that shouldn't be too much of an issue. But what I'd have to do is move the palette because, yeah, I don't want to bump the palette. And also, please feel free to type in any questions that you have as I'm doing this little adjustment. And let me look on my editor. Okay, now you're probably going to see a lot of glare, but that's really going to be the best I can do. Okay, so now what you're probably seeing is glare, and that is really nothing I can do about it right now. But yep, now you're seeing what the painting looks like with the camera front and center. And you can also see why I don't film like this, just because, you know, the glare, and because I can't really paint with the camera in front of me. So I'll hang out for a little bit longer if anyone has any questions. Hey Angela, what's up? The painting is linked in the description. It's from Anthony van Dyck. Here's the photo reference here. It's taken from Google Arts and Culture. But if you go to the description box, it has a link. And if you, you know, if you can't access it, just message me on Patreon. I'll just send you a link right away. Oh, now you can. Okay, Arcadian art. I hope you can see it. See it okay. Oh, thanks, Kathy. Thanks, Crazy Fish. I really like your username. Alrighty, so I apologize for the glare. You know, I can slightly move it, but it would kind of distort. So, any last questions? How about this? I want to ask you something. So, I'm thinking of doing the next one on Wednesday, 5 p.m. I have options. I have the Nelson Shanks. Oh, not too much glare. That's good, Regine. Thank you for your nice comment. So what does everyone think? Do you want the Nelson Shanks back? Do you want me to continue to work on the Nelson Shanks? Do you want the Rembrandt back? Or do you want me to start a Velasquez? Or oh yeah, yeah, Crazy Fish. No, that's cool. That's a cool name. I used to have a friend. They would call him Cat Food. Rollerblader. Really good rollerblader. But yeah, so does everyone want the Rembrandt back? Do you want the Nelson Shanks back? Or do you want me to start say a Velasquez or something? So I'll wait a little bit. All right, Steven Velasquez, you read my mind. I do want to start a Velasquez. Okay, let's do that. Plus, we'll always have time to come back to the Rembrandt and to this one, of course, and to the other ones. So, Velasquez it is. All right, that being said, let me write one last comment thanking everyone, and then we'll sign out. Oh, all right, Arcadian. Rembrandt. Okay, so we will do all of them. Don't worry. We'll come back to the Rembrandt. Trust me, I haven't touched it since the last time. And we'll come back to the Nelson eventually. Yep. So Arcadian and Steven, we'll do them both. We'll do them both. Okay. How about this? How about this? Rembrandt is going to be heads and Velasquez is tails. Heads or tails?
It's tails.
What was it again? I forgot. I think it's the, was it the Velasquez that was tails? Oh, Steven, you said yay. So Velasquez was tails, right? Oh, my memory. I'm tired. So Velasquez it is, huh? Okay. But Arcadian art, we will get back to the Rembrandt eventually. So I'm going to type Velasquez it is, thanks to Siri. Have a great night, Kathy. I'm here. Google Arts and Culture is where it is. Oh, wow, 2 a.m. I'm near DC. I'm about 20 minutes away from DC. So I'm just writing a little comment for everyone so everyone can see. Thanks, Arcadian, for tuning in. Thanks, DC, Michigan. Thanks, Crazy Fish. Good night. And Kathy, it's 8:09 p.m. over there. It's 8:10 over here. We're about the same. Alrighty. Thanks again, everyone. And remember, tentative schedule, but most likely we'll be back 5 p.m. on Wednesday. Angela at 9:10. Yeah. Not too late. So we must be similar time zones. Yep, no problem. D Michigan. Yep, Regine, good night. Good night, Angela. Good night to everyone for whom it's nighttime, and good morning to everyone for whom it is morning time. All right, I'm going to sign out. Take care, everyone, and I'll see you on the next one.